Hey guys, Greg here from Lensprotogo, and welcome to another Cinematography Lighting Breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at a product shot that we did for a beer bottle, which I have right over my shoulder. We're going to be talking about how we dealt with reflections and what our complete lighting setup was. I'm going to play the two shots that we got, and then we'll get into this breakdown. Roll it! Before we get into the lighting, let's just talk about some camera specs. We shot on the Arri Alexa Mini in 4K. We had a white balance of 5000 to warm up the daylight sources we were using. ISO was set to 800. Aperture was a t2.8 at 85 millimeters. We also added a wooden camera matte box to help with the flares. Here's a behind the scenes of the whole setup. We used 3 different types of lights, 3 Westcott Icelights, a Dedolight, and a Lume Cube. This is what we started with. Like I said, we were in the studio, so we had total control over all of the light. So with all of our lights off, it was completely dark. The first light we added was the Dedolight off of frame right and shooting across the background. From the start, this is something I knew I wanted to have, and all we had to do was close down the barn doors so only a sliver of light was coming through, and then we just played around with the angle until we got something that we liked. We also dimmed it way down so it had that orange glow like sunset. The other thing is with the placement of the bottle, we made sure to place it at the end of the beam of light so it acts like a leading line to direct the viewers. After we had the background set, next was to start lighting the product. We used an Icelight to shoot through a Westcott 4x6 diffusion to get this big soft source just out of frame right. You can see in the reflection this white part here. That's the diffusion frame. At first, we could still see the reflection of the light as well, so we played around with the angle and the height until it was completely hidden by this top label. It ended up being pretty high, almost to the ceiling in the studio, which is about 10 feet. Looking at the Lume color exposure on the Flanders monitor, the face of the bottle was still pretty dark, so we added in another Icelight behind the diffusion right next to the first one, to push some more light around, and then we hid the reflection of the light behind the label the same way as the first one. Our next challenge was to light the bottle. This took a lot of trial and error because we wanted to light the bottle but not any of the wood around the bottle. What we ended up going with was a Lume Cube just propped up behind it with a homemade snoot or barn doors made from black wrap, so we were only getting it on the bottle. And then we played with the brightness a little, and it looked really cool with all of the light punching through, but it didn't come off as natural, so we left it on its dimmest setting. The last little touch we added was a little kicker to the camera left side, and this was another Icelight shooting through a small piece of diffusion, maybe 1 feet by 2 feet. This defines that left edge a little more and gives us some nice light reflection in the water droplets. Here's that light on and off. And again, we just played around with the angle until it was hidden behind the bottle's top label. Like you saw at the beginning, we also have this tight insert shot of the top label, and all we had to change from the wide shot to this one was getting the Lume Cube behind it a little higher to light up the bottle more. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to get notified when we put out new videos. I'm going to leave a list in the description below of all the gear that we used, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.